Once upon a time, there once lived a king and a queen. The king and the queen were very sad as they had no children. And one day, the queen sat by a pond in the garden of her castle, wishing to have a child of her own. Just that moment, a frog sprang out onto a lily pad and exclaimed, "Your wish will be granted, my queen. Before this year passes, you shall have a daughter." The queen was very pleased to hear that. As the time passed, everything happened as a frog had said. The king and the queen were finally blessed with a beautiful daughter. The childbirth was celebrated with a big feast. The king invited all their friends, relatives, kings, and the queens from faraway lands for his daughter's name day. Everyone in the kingdom was invited to celebrate the birth of their new princess. The day of the feast arrived, and the grand celebration began. The princess was named Aurora, as she had filled the king's and the queen's life with a light like the dawn. All the guests arrived and gathered in the castle great hall. Every guest has brought a wonderful present for the princess. Visitors from throughout the kingdom came to visit the princess, including the three fairies. The three good fairies was Flora, Fauna, and the Merryweather arrived with the gift. "I give her a gift of song," said Fauna, waving her hand. "I give her beauty," said Flora. As the Merryweather was about to give her present, a green spark filled the great hall. The evil fairy Maleficent appeared from the green fire. She was angry that she was not invited to the castle. She wanted to give something to the princess too, but instead of a present, she gave Princess Aurora a curse. Before her 16th birthday, the princess shall prick her finger on the needle on the spinning wheel and die. After putting a curse on the newborn princess, she left as suddenly she arrived. Everyone present in the great hall gasped in horror. The king and the queen became sad too. After watching all this, Merryweather stepped toward to give Princess Aurora her final present. The fairy said, "Even though that I can't undo the weak fairy curse, I can soften it." She said that the king's daughter would not die but sleep for 100 years. Aurora will be awake only by a true love's kiss. After hearing this, the king and the queen were not revealed. With a heavy heart, they decided that the three god fairies would raise Aurora far away from the castle. The three god fairies, disguised as a simple peasant, took Aurora and obeyed the king's order. A little Aurora lived with the three good fairies, and one day, Aurora played with her three dogs. They kept running around. Without the fairies know that little Aurora and the dogs arrived at a strange place, a place that full of the big trees and strange plants. Aurora seemed so interested in that place, she just kept looking around at that place. Maleficent has instinct that someone entered her place. She just checking around and found a little girl with her three dogs playing around her place. Maleficent was angry, but the little girl approached her and giggles. That little girl gave her a flower and candy. She still took a sharp glance to the little girl, but the little girl kept smiling at her and rubbed her wings. The fairies who just realized that Aurora was gone started panic. One of them had a vision that Aurora got to Maleficent's place. Knowing that, they just hurry up to bring little Aurora back home. The next day, little Aurora kept going to the Maleficent place. Little Aurora always gave a flower and candy to her. Days goes by and little Aurora getting older, and Aurora kept visiting Maleficent place to meet her. She thinks that Maleficent is her fairy godmother. Without Maleficent realizing it, she was used to the presence of Aurora. Even she already loved her, but denied it because she still has a revenge to her parents, the king and the queen. The little Aurora got older, and one day she visited Maleficent's house to give Maleficent some apple that she took. "Godmother," she said to Maleficent, "I bring you this apple. You have to taste it, Godmother," said Aurora with a chilled voice. Seeing the sincerity of Aurora, Maleficent began to melt. Deep in her heart, she began to love Aurora. She regretted for dropping the curse when Aurora was born. "I wish I could cancel my curse, Aurora," Maleficent said while looking at Aurora sadly. Just at that moment, a prince was passing by the forest. It was Prince Philip. Prince Aurora's parents had planned for her to marry, but he didn't know that Briar was a princess. He hopped off his horse when he heard singing and came out of the trees to approach Briar Roses. They sang and danced together. As Briar danced with him, she remembered that he reminded him of the prince in her dream. The prince did not tell her who he really was. Briar wanted to meet her aunts, the good fairies who had taken care of her. She still did not know the truth. Briar was finally told that she is a princess and her aunts were really fairies. The fairies also told her that Aurora was to return to her parent castle that night and meet the prince. She was already engaged. The curse had become true. Aurora became very sad at the thought of leaving the man she fell in love with. She only wanted to marry him, her dream prince. When they reached the castle, the three fairies left her alone to mourn. Just as they left, Maleficent's curse became true. The spell on Aurora took her onto a high tower in the castle, and there Aurora pricked her finger on a needle of a spindle and fell in a deep slumber. The three good fairies soon found Princess Aurora. Upon seeing they realized the evil curse had become true, the good fairies moved Aurora to the high tower room. Then they cast a spell on the entire kingdom, making everyone sleep. The three good fairies knew they had to find Aurora's true love. They went back onto the forest to find Aurora's true love because the only true love kiss could wake Princess Aurora. It did not take too long for the fairies to realize who Aurora's true love was. Prince Philip faced Maleficent and telling her that Aurora is under her spell. Maleficent that her curse become true. She felt mad and bad for herself. And she came to the palace, but the palace were trying to get rid of her. She does not give up and fight all the palace guard to enter the palace. Maleficent can enter the palace and seeing Aurora sleeping under her curse. She is trying to cancel the curse, but it all failed. The prince come and run to Aurora. "Kiss her. It's the only way to break my curse," said Maleficent to the prince. The prince pressed his lips against the princess's lips and kissed her, a true love kiss. But surprisingly, the curse cannot be broke. The true love kiss is not enough. Maleficent and the prince are very devastated. They have lost their loved ones. Forgive me, Aurora. It's all my mistake. My curse make me losing you, said Maleficent began to cry. Without realizing it, Maleficent tears fell down into Aurora's cheeks. At that moment, Princess Aurora's eyes opened and smiled at her. Maleficent broke her own curse, and spell can be broke with love and sincerity. When Aurora saw it was her beloved godmother and her true love, the man she had met before, she became very happy. Prince Philip and Princess Aurora soon got married, and Maleficent often visited the palace. After that, they lived happily ever after. This story it proves that no matter how bad and hard a person hurt will be broke by a sincerity and